So the 2024 Game Awards took place, and unfortunately, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth did not win Game of the Year. However, it did walk away with one other award, and they did announce the long-awaited PC port for Rebirth, and it looks incredible. So we're going to take a look at those two things, as well as a number of other really cool announcements that came from the show that really caught my eye that I think are pretty exciting. So first off, before we get to the Game Awards discussion, Square Enix did announce that Yoshinori Kitase and Naoki Hamaguchi will be doing a Reddit Ask Me Anything tonight, depending on when you're watching this, Friday night or on December 13th. Now, I'm not too familiar with how Reddit works when it comes to AMAs, so I don't know if they answer questions every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. I would assume that these questions will have to be vetted and curated before Kitase-san and Hamaguchi-san actually answer them. But if there's any cool info that comes out from this AMA in regards to the PC port of Rebirth or maybe Remake Part 3, then I'll make a video and try to get that uploaded here on the channel either Saturday or perhaps Monday, depending on how much information is actually at this event. So there's something cool to look forward to at least. Now, getting to the Game Awards and those announcements. First off, I gotta say, I think this is actually probably one of the best, if not the best, Game Awards I've ever watched. It had a great production value, it was well paced, nothing really felt like it overstayed its welcome, and they did bring back the Muppets. They had Staller and Waldorf there, and the entire night they were just making jokes at Jeff's and the show's expense. It was honestly kind of refreshing to see how self-aware Jeff has become to a degree when it comes to criticisms of not only himself, but the Game Awards themselves too. It was just hilarious. Those jokes I thought were really funny. They landed. There was a really funny one where they were talking about, hey, did you know that Jeff Keighley is friends with Hideo Kojima? And I think it was Staller who responded, I do, but does Hideo? So they got really deep on some of these jokes, and I just thought it was super refreshing. Now, getting to those announcements that really caught my eye, I do have to say dreams come true because there was a number of announcements that just made my night. Stuff that I was hoping would happen that did happen. So the first game that actually caught my eye was Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. I'm a big DOA fan. I love Ninja Gaiden as a franchise, whether it was the OG game or the newer ones that were on Xbox. And the franchise has been pretty dormant and presumed to be dead for a very long time. But now Dotemu is bringing the game back in that classic 2D action platformer style. The graphics are gorgeous and it looks super sick. It's probably going to be really difficult, but it's also probably going to be really fun. And it's just super cool to see Ninja Gaiden kind of have a resurgence, and hopefully this leads to something even bigger down the line. Up next, the thing you all were probably waiting for, and that is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth officially coming to PC, and it's right around the corner. It's coming out on January 23rd. And what's super nice is that there's no Epic Store exclusivity. If you want to get it on Steam or Epic Game Store on day one, you can now do that. You don't gotta wait. It's fantastic. And if you pre-order now, you get 30% off of the game, which is insane. And I gotta say, visually, the game looks stunning on PC, and they really showcase that in the trailer by telling us that it has improved lighting, enhanced textures and modeling, as well as DLSS and VRR. And just looking at the visuals in the trailer, it looks incredible. The lighting clearly looks better. The textures look incredible. The models themselves are even more detailed than I ever imagined they could be, and it just looks overall really damn good. And I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can check out the trailer for yourselves in full HD, 60 frames per second, instead of seeing it here in my video. So for those of you who were waiting for Rebirth to come to PC before you played it, now is your chance, because it's literally coming out in a little over a month. And again, while it looks really good in the trailer, I hope that it performs well. Not just in terms of like sales and whatnot, but I mean like from a video game performance standpoint, because Square Enix games tend to have issues when they come to PC. 7 Remake had some issues, but the modding community seemed to have figured that out. 16 also had some issues, but I think that's been figured out by now. So hopefully the launch on PC is not rocky for Rebirth. And if it is, I hope those issues get sorted out. And it's going to be super cool as well to see what type of mods that the fan community comes up with for this game. I would full on expect Advent Children costumes, maybe naked Tifa. You never know what this community is going to do. They already made Clive naked in the PC version. Tifa's most likely next. Up next, speaking of Final Fantasy, we had Clive announced as the final guest character in Season 1 of Tekken 8. Now look, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs that I want Tifa to make her way into Tekken. I really do. But I also did mention in a few videos that if Tifa, for whatever reason, can't make it into Tekken just yet, then a secondary option that would be really good would be Clive. And holy hell does he look sick. Visually, he looks fantastic, but they faithfully implemented and recreated a lot of Clive's iconic abilities, including Leviathan. So this goes to show you that this was in development for a very long time, and usually deals like this to get guest characters into games are made years in advance anyway. So this probably was something that was being discussed way back when Final Fantasy XVI probably hadn't even come out yet. And what is very interesting is that Katsuhiro Harada, who is the face of Tekken, posted on his Twitter account, I think it may have been a few months ago, that he was having dinner with Yoshi P and Sakurai, who is the face of Smash Brothers. And they were just out to dinner, enjoying each other's company. So now I'm starting to wonder if there's a new Smash game that comes out, is Clive going to be in that one? So that's pretty exciting. And again, I know there are people that are really mad that Tifa didn't get put into Tekken and instead it's Clive, but I'm going to take a win where I get one, man. Noctis was my main in Tekken 7, and Clive looks like Noctis on steroids in this game. From the combo extenders with Torgal, yes, they put Torgal in the game, he's going to be a part of Clive's moveset, to what looks like his heat mode being his semi-prime limit break mode, which is sick. He even has his counter from 16, where if you time it just right, you slide backwards and then you come in for the counter attack. It looks like it was beautifully recreated. He's got some really great bound moves, crush moves. He looks insane. And the moment the trailer showed up at the event, I just kind of found myself checking out afterwards because I'm thinking, what are they going to do with Clive? Like, what more could they do? And then I saw that there was the extended trailer online, and I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. So Clive looks like he's going to be a ton of fun. I believe he comes out on the 16th of December, basically next week. And he looks like he's going to be a ton of fun to play. And he does come with his own stage, which is a transforming Phoenix Gate. So it starts off with the broken down, battle damaged Phoenix Gate. You're then taken into Clive's mind prison where the two Ifrits are fighting in the background. And for those of you who are kind of bummed out that Tifa didn't make it in, again, I really truly hope that Tifa makes it in someday. There is still time. Tekken games tend to get a ton of support for a very long time. So who knows, maybe when Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is getting ready to release, they could do a collaboration with Tekken, and next thing you know, Tifa is now in Tekken. A little bit further down the line, but it would be a nice little cap for the remake trilogy, and they would finally get a character that was super highly requested for Tekken into Tekken. But hear me out, if Tifa doesn't make it into Tekken as a guest character, perhaps she could make it into another game that was shown off tonight, and that is Virtua Fighter. VF is back, baby, and it looks insane. We got a quick trailer where Akira, who has been completely redesigned, he's like a wandering stranger looking for fights, beating people up, is walking through this village. He's beating up a dude, and he just straight up shoulder rams the guy through a wall and breaks the entire wall. It looks sick. And then at the very end, we got some very brief footage of Akira fighting Sarah. It looked like maybe some of the devs were playing the game, but it was very brief, but the action looked super fun, frenetic. Looks like there's going to be some cool parry and guard stuff that goes on. It's going to be incredible. I think very shortly they're going to do a VF Direct too, so there'll be a ton more information that hits when that goes live. But again, if VF wants to do guest characters, you know, Tifa didn't make it into Tekken, maybe Tifa could make her way into Virtua Fighter, which would be just as cool, honestly. But either way, it's really nice to have Virtua Fighter back. And the last surprise announcement we'll cover before we get to the rest of the stuff, Onimusha is back, baby. I've been screaming at the top of my lungs. I hope that you come back, Onimusha. I hope there's a new game. It's one of my favorite Capcom franchises. And sure enough, the moment that trailer started playing, I'm like, oh, I think this is Onimusha. Because it's that feudal Japan in that RE engine, and it still has that dark fantasy horror vibe, But in terms of gameplay, it honestly looks like they're going to lean way more into the action element, which makes a ton of sense because the lead character is a samurai. Now, I don't think this is Samanosuke. I believe this is a new character. From the descriptions that I read, they just call him a lone samurai. So it's not Samanosuke, but it's somebody new. And based on the action that we see, it kind of looks maybe like Capcom's version of a Souls-like. Maybe it might be closer to, I believe the game's called Phantom Blade. But either way, it's definitely going to be much heavier on action. There's backstabs, blockings, parries, and we know traditionally in Onimusha games you also get elemental weapons, so that's probably going to show up later on in the game as well. But Onimusha Way of the Sword is officially announced. It's not coming out till 2026. But to know that there is finally new life breathed into Onimusha and that it's coming back is super sick. I cannot wait to see more. It's something that I never thought would happen, and finally it's back. Super cool. Now to get to the award discussion. So Rebirth was nominated for 7 awards. Unfortunately, it only won 1 of those awards, but it was the one we all kind of figured it would get, and that is the best score and music. And it was a really great moment because Hamaguchi-san went up there to accept the award. He also had his translator there, Hinano Akiyama, who's been with Hamaguchi-san and Katase-san for a number of different appearances they've done here in America. And he was so clearly overwhelmed with emotion. He didn't even know what to say at first. He just kind of blanked out and froze and was just so overwhelmed with the fact that they actually won Best Score and Music. So it took him a second to kind of collect himself, but after that he was able to say his congratulations and how much it meant to him. And it's just so cool, man, to see Rebirth again get Best Score. It's such an incredible soundtrack. I really couldn't imagine that award going to anyone else, which is not a knock on any of the other games nominated, but Rebirth in particular was just on a completely different level when it came to its soundtrack. So congratulations to Square and Rebirth and Hamaguchi and the team for winning a Game Award for Best Score and Music. Now, when it comes to the big award, Game of the Year, this one goes to Astrobot, which I know some people are probably going to be mad, like, how on the earth did Astrobot win? As someone who played Astrobot, that game is incredible. It was actually in my 3rd place slot of top games of the year. Rebirth was number 1, Silent Hill was number 2, and Astrobot was a very close 3rd behind Silent Hill 2. And the game itself is so charming, well put together, and you can just tell that Team Asobi, the people that made it, really genuinely love platformers and video games and Sony's legacy, essentially. And it was a super refreshing game, a platformer that came out that wasn't a Nintendo game that was actually really, really good, was super refreshing, and it's such a fun game to play. And while I am bummed out that Rebirth didn't win, Astrobot winning does send a pretty big message to the gaming industry and companies like Sony and even Microsoft of stop trend chasing. Stop making games based on what you think will make you money. Let your devs just make the games they want to make, and sometimes you get some really good results, like Astrobot. It came out, sold relatively well, scored really well, and it was well received by the people that played it. And we do know that when it comes to Sony, they're so hyper-fixated on trying to make these live service games and trying to make games that will potentially make them millions in return, you know, chasing hero shooters and live service games, and it's just not working, man. Now, even though Rebirth didn't win, and I am bummed out that it didn't win, it being nominated for all of these nominations is still a really big deal because, again, it's about exposure. Millions of people watch the Game Awards, and now after this event has taken place, millions upon millions of more people will now know about Rebirth. They've seen it nominated in all these categories. It had a beautiful main theme rendition in the Game Awards orchestra before the Game of the Year was actually announced. It's now getting the PC version. So this game has now gotten so much more exposure to general audiences, to hardcore audiences. So I wouldn't be shocked if there is a surge in sales for this game, and I hope that there is. Rebirth was phenomenal. Again, my personal game of the year, and Astrobot winning does not change that. All the time I put into Rebirth is still there. It doesn't dissipate. I'm not super mad and now I'm never gonna play a game ever again. I'm gonna go play Rebirth again after I make my video because it's so much fun. But again, just being nominated, being in front of millions of eyes, having that PC port now announced is a massive win for Rebirth. And at the end of the day, I think Rebirth is going to be just fine when it comes to how it performed in sales. And clearly the people that played it, whether you were a regular person or someone within the industry, we all clearly loved it. 110 plus perfect scores. You can't really go wrong with a game like Rebirth. So with that being said, that is the video. Let me know in the comments down below what announcements from the Game Awards caught your attention. Is there anything in particular that got you super excited? And are you one of those people that was holding off on playing Rebirth because you wanted that PC version? Let me know in the comments down below. I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.